Imagine a machine. It sits in your pocket. It knows what you like, it knows what you fear, and it knows exactly how to keep your eyes locked on its glowing screen. For years, we thought of social media as a digital town square. But what if it was never a town square at all? What if it was a casino deliberately engineered to hijack human psychology? Today, we are looking at the ultimate reckoning of Silicon Valley. In early 2026, the architects of our digital reality, Meta and Google, were dragged into a downtown Los Angeles courtroom. They weren't facing lawmakers looking for a viral soundbite. They were facing a jury of everyday people, fighting a landmark product liability lawsuit that threatens to dismantle the trillion-dollar attention economy. At the center of it all, a 20-year-old woman known only as Kaylee GM. Her story has become the spearhead for over 1,600 lawsuits across the United States, alleging that platforms like Instagram and YouTube are not just apps, but defective products weaponized against the developing brains of children. But to understand how we got to this historic 2026 bellwether trial, we have to look back at the original sin of social media. We have to look at the moment the public first realized their data was being weaponized, the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Let's rewind to the 2010s. Back then, Facebook was an unstoppable juggernaut of global connectivity. But beneath the surface, a massive data harvesting operation was taking place. A seemingly harmless personality quiz app called This Is Your Digital Life was launched on the platform. Users were paid to take a survey, explicitly told their data was for academic research. What they didn't know was that by accepting the terms of service, they were granting the app permission to harvest not just their own data, but the psychological profiles of their entire Facebook friend networks. Up to 87 million Facebook profiles were extracted without informed consent. This massive treasure trove of human behavior was acquired by Cambridge Analytica, a British political consulting firm that used the data to build psychographic profiles designed to micro-target voters during the 2016 elections. When whistleblower Christopher Wiley exposed the operation in 2018, the world watched in horror as the illusion of digital privacy shattered. The fallout was catastrophic. Mark Zuckerberg was forced to testify before Congress, admitting a major breach of trust. Regulatory bodies dropped the hammer. The Federal Trade Commission hit Facebook with a historic $5 billion fine in 2019 for privacy violations. By 2023, a massive consumer class action lawsuit reached final approval, forcing Meta to pay $725 million, the largest recovery ever secured in a data privacy class action. Even Meta's own shareholders revolted, suing Zuckerberg and the board of directors for failing to protect user data. In late 2025, just months before the addiction trials began, Meta settled that shareholder lawsuit for $190 million to prevent its executives from testifying about sensitive operations in open court. The Cambridge Analytica era proved one thing. The tech giants could be held financially accountable for how they handled our data. But as the privacy lawsuits concluded, a new, much darker legal theory was brewing. A theory that didn't just question what these companies did with our data, but what their platforms were actively doing to our brains. For decades, tech companies operated behind an impenetrable legal shield known as Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. This law states that a platform cannot be held liable for the content its users post. If someone posts something harmful, the platform is just the messenger. But brilliant legal minds realized they could bypass Section 230 entirely by changing the battlefield. They weren't going to sue Meta and Google over the content on their platforms. They were going to sue them over the code. They argued that algorithms, infinite scroll features, and push notifications are inherently defective product features designed by the companies themselves. Just like a car manufacturer can be sued for a faulty brake line, social media companies were now being sued for engineering addictive digital products. By early 2026, thousands of families and school districts had filed lawsuits. To handle the massive load, the courts consolidated them into the Judicial Council Coordination Proceeding in California. They selected a bellwether trial, a massive test case to see how a jury would react to the evidence. The original defendants were Meta, Google, Snap, and TikTok. But seeing the writing on the wall, both Snap and TikTok reached confidential, out-of-court settlements right before the trial began. Meta and Google were left standing alone to face the music. On February 9th, 2026, inside a downtown Los Angeles courtroom, the trial began. The plaintiff was Kaylee G.M., a 20-year-old woman from Chico, California. According to her lawsuit, she began using YouTube at age 6, Instagram at 9, and later TikTok and Snapchat. Kaylee alleged that this early, relentless exposure to engineered addiction fundamentally altered her developing brain, causing severe anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, and suicidal ideation. Representing Kaylee was Mark Lanier, an excitable, highly charismatic attorney from Texas famous for taking down big tobacco and opioid manufacturers. Lanier didn't just bring legal arguments, he brought theater. During his opening statement, Lanier stacked 3 children's toy blocks on a table. ABC. This case is as easy as ABC, he told the jury. Addicting the brains of children. He pointed at the defense tables, calling Meta and Google 2 of the richest corporations in history who have engineered addiction in children's brains. He famously declared, "They don't only build apps, they build traps." Lanier then brought out a phone book-sized, fully functional slot machine. He demonstrated to the jury that the physical act of a child swiping down on a smartphone to refresh an app is neurologically identical to pulling the lever of a casino slot machine. Every swipe introduces uncertainty. Maybe a like, maybe a funny video, or maybe a post that shatters their self-esteem. This uncertainty triggers dopamine rushes that hijack the brain's reward centers. Lanier held up a hammer and an eggshell, smashing the shell to illustrate how the part of Kaylee's mind responsible for filtering out noise and stress was completely devastated by the tech giants' algorithmic machines. But the tech giants did not back down. They came armed with their own narrative, turning the spotlight away from their algorithms and directly onto Kaylee's deeply traumatic childhood. Paul Schmidt, the attorney representing Meta, delivered a somber opening statement. He argued that Kaylee's lifelong struggles with depression were not caused by Instagram, but by a chaotic, abusive upbringing, relying heavily on Kaylee's own medical records. Schmidt revealed that Kaylee suffered severe maternal abuse. The jury was shown a devastating slide, quoting Kaylee telling a therapist, "Mom screams at me all day, every day. She makes me want to kill myself." She had detailed instances where her mother would hit her on the back of the head, degrade her intelligence, and give her the silent treatment for days. Schmidt also noted that at just 13 years old, Kaylee's worst memory was calling the police because her sister was attempting suicide. Meta's defense team cleverly flipped the script. They argued that social media wasn't the poison, it was the antidote. It served as a coping mechanism and a positive outlet for a young girl trapped in a terrifying domestic environment. Furthermore, Schmidt pointed out a glaring hole in the plaintiff's case. While Kaylee's therapist believed social media addiction was real in theory, not a single one of them had ever officially diagnosed Kaylee with it. Google's attorney, Louis Lee, took a different approach. He categorically denied that YouTube belonged in this trial at all. Kaylee GM is not addicted to YouTube, Lee stated bluntly. It's not social media addiction when it's not social media, and it's not an addiction. The courtroom quickly turned into a battleground of expert testimonies and unsealed corporate secrets. The plaintiff called Dr. Anna Lemke, a prominent Stanford psychiatrist and author of the book Dopamine Nation. She testified that platforms like Instagram function essentially like a drug on youth. Dr. Lemke highlighted that the 24/7, really limitless, frictionless access eliminates natural stopping cues. She explained that push notifications induce artificial cravings, and the 24-hour time limit on Instagram stories intentionally engineers a fear of missing out, FOMO, that forces users into a state of perpetual hypervigilance. The executives were next. On February 11th, 2026, Instagram head Adam Mosseri took the stand. Under intense cross-examination, Mosseri flatly rejected the term addiction. He argued for the term problematic use, comparing scrolling on Instagram to staying up late binge-watching a Netflix show. "I've never claimed being able to diagnose addiction clinically," Mosseri admitted, after Lanier pointed out his lack of medical credentials. But Lanier had receipts. He played a 2020 podcast where Mosseri admitted he didn't have a good name for the phenomenon of overuse, suggesting that Meta used the phrase problematic use merely as a corporate code word to dodge legal liability. Then came the whistleblowers. The plaintiffs' team unveiled internal corporate strategy memos that shattered the tech company's public relations defenses. One devastating meta strategy document explicitly stated, "If we won't win big with teens, we must bring them in as tweens." Another memo revealed Meta knew that in 2015, approximately 30% of all 10 to 12-year-olds in the US were using Instagram, completely bypassing the platform's age restrictions. And it wasn't just Meta. An internal YouTube memo boldly declared, "The goal is not viewership, it's viewer addiction." The jury also heard from Brian Boylan, a former Facebook vice president who resigned in 2020 and published a blog post called Deleting Facebook. Boylan delivered a fatal blow to the idea that Meta cared about youth well-being. "From my experience, work around safety was someone else's problem," he testified. Keeping people safe was not important to Mark or the company. Everything culminated on Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. Dressed in a dark blue suit and a smoke gray tie, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg arrived at the Los Angeles Superior Court. For roughly 6 grueling hours, the 41-year-old billionaire testified as an adverse witness, directly defending the architecture of his empire before a jury. Zuckerberg appeared pale, tired, and increasingly irritated. When pressed by attorney Mark Lanier regarding Meta's failure to keep children under 13 off Instagram, Zuckerberg went on the defensive. He argued that enforcing age limits is a challenging problem because a meaningful number of people simply lie about their age, and 12-year-olds don't have driver's licenses to prove who they are. In a massive deflection, Zuckerberg suggested that age verification shouldn't even be Meta's problem. He told the jury that hardware manufacturers like Apple and Google should be the ones age-gating users at the App Store level before the apps are even downloaded. Zuckerberg also tried to minimize the financial motive, testifying under oath that the teen demographic accounts for merely 1% of Meta's total revenue, arguing that teenagers simply don't have enough disposable income to be highly valuable to advertisers. But Lanier wasn't done. He presented internal documents from 2022 revealing strict corporate milestones aimed at driving daily active user engagement to 40 minutes by 2023 and 46 minutes by 2026. When Lanier bluntly asked Zuckerberg if people tend to use something more if it's addictive, Zuckerberg shut down, stating, "I'm not sure what to say to that. I don't think that applies here." Zuckerberg insisted his goal was simply to build a product that brings value to people's lives. Yet, when confronted with the fact that 18 independent experts had warned his company that augmented reality, beauty filters, simulating plastic surgery were harming teenage girls, Zuckerberg admitted he personally decided to keep them on the platform, citing principles of free expression. The 2026 Kaylee GM trial is not just a lawsuit. It is an existential threat to the foundation of the modern internet. It represents a paradigm shift from the data privacy battles of the Cambridge Analytica era to a terrifying new frontier, the battle for human attention and psychological sovereignty. If this Los Angeles jury ultimately decides that Meta and Google's algorithms are defective products that caused a young woman's mental health crisis, the floodgates will open. Tech companies could be exposed to tens of billions of dollars in damages globally. Every notification, every infinite scroll, and every algorithm will suddenly become a massive legal liability. Did social media cause Kaylee GM's suffering, or was it a digital refuge from a tragic childhood? Did Mark Zuckerberg and the tech titans deliberately engineer digital slot machines to addict our children, or are they just providing a service that millions love to use? The jury will decide, but the precedent is already set. The golden age of unregulated social media engineering is officially over. Thank you for watching. If you want to stay updated on the dark side of the tech industry, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and let us know in the comments. Do you think social media companies should be held legally responsible for addiction? We'll see you in the next video.